Hey everybody, it's Andrew Ross from Chat Integrated Media, publishers of Jobber Nation and Indie Garage, and creators of the Great Canadian Aftermarket Trade Show, a virtual event. I'm here with Norm Rose. Now, Norm is Excel Sales Consulting, has training on a lot of different aspects within the aftermarket. Norm's been part of the Canadian aftermarket for a long time, and they offer training for everything from leadership training to managers, outside sales to drivers, you name it. Norm, thanks very much for joining me today.
Well, it's my absolute pleasure. I appreciate the invitation as well. Thank you, Andrew. I'm glad to be here.
Great. Now, just jumping right into this, one of the major concerns for a lot of folks in this very different time is stress. Few feel it more than outside salespeople who, for a long time, were forced to kind of do their work from their home offices and some strict protocols in place to not travel and on top of all the other stresses that people have during this time, they've been unable to meet face to face. That's kind of part and parcel of who they are often. I mean, what's your take on how they can kind of cope with that and some tools to help them keep moving forward as professionals?
Well, Andrew, it's a great question. Stress is really prevalent now more than it ever was in the past years. And it's hitting March 13th. Right after that, the world changed. And so I'll first start where I believe that the way to reduce stress and to minimize as much as we can the stress we have in our lives through going through all of this, and even though we're coming into some kind of new normality, is I believe that it starts at home as well, and how we actually are interacting with the people at home and how we're doing and how we're coping with things. We take our home and our personal lives certainly overlap into our professional lives, so it starts with our mindset at home. If we're salespeople, like you said, out in the field, we're going to see behaviors from our customers, potentially some that we had not seen before. They're, let's say, so to speak, they're on edge a little bit. They're coming out of this. They're not sure. They're uncertain about what the future looks like. And some may still be trying to catch up from the difficulties of the challenges when COVID did hit. Now, some others are already rocking and rolling and doing really well. And we're hearing that in the industry as well, that they're very busy and they're catching up and they're trying to catch up in the business. The issue is those are twofold issues. One, they're so busy right now. When you're so busy and stress can kick in, it can give reactions to sometimes negative behaviors where they might just get frustrated that the credit didn't come through quick enough or the way someone handled something on the counter. So my point is for the salespeople is not to, what we do sometimes in human nature is act in kind. We get pushed back. We get frustrated. Think before we respond. Expect that we're going to hear this. And we have to be patient. We have to listen. We have to have empathy. We never really know what's going on in people's worlds either. We may find that, we talk to somebody and we uncover the onion, let's say, and we say, oh, there's a problem here. They knew someone actually that the deeper problem is someone passed away or someone's been affected by COVID, or they just don't know their financial situation, whatever it might be. So more calmness and patience and empathy is big, I believe.
Sure. I know that, the Automotive Industries Association of Canada and their recent COVID-19 impact surveys found that dealing with stress, managing stress of the respondents as well as their staff was number 3 on the list for aftermarket companies, right behind, the concerns over the economic situation and concerns over a second wave that continues to be something that people are concerned with. So it's right up there for everybody. It's not just the individual. We've all got stressors and one of the things that is causing people who are sales professionals some stress is they're kind of out of their element. They're in this virtual world like we are, not able to be shoulder to shoulder with their customers and contacts and networking in the big rooms, and they're having to deal with this kind of reality. How do they connect with customers when they can't be in front of customers in the same way they're used to?
Right. Yeah. Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, and I could start out with the ones. There's kind of two parts to that, and it's a great, great question. We just can't interact the way that we could in many cases before, shaking a hand on a deal, even, and all of those things, or the distance that we have, or the time that we're spending in shops. So I think a couple things to do is talk to your customers and really ask what's important to them, or that like as far as managing the protocols and how am I doing, and what am I meeting all the expectations of what you expect in the shop if you have to go speak to a technician or a body man on the paint side, whatever it might be. And the people will really appreciate that. And then actionable behaviors as well, is it's not the exact same the way that it was, and being very conscious of that I think is very important.
Sure, we had talked, previously about just being mindful of, how contact when, now that things are opening up some and some restrictions are being lifted on travel and face-to-face meetings, and some customers may want to see, individual salespeople. There's still, measures in place, correct?
There sure are. They still want to see people, and they want to talk to people. One of the ways that we would suggest that maybe that we could do things as well, if you have some customers that don't, and are you saying, Andrew, as well, potentially that some may not be seeing us, like you said earlier, right? They may not be opening their doors, so to speak, like they did before. And, maybe Tuesday I'd go see a guy 40 minutes away. I'd spend a half hour with him. Well, that's not happening. So one of the things, even in my own business, as a guy that's been in this industry for 30 years plus now, and as a trainer as well, for many almost a couple of decades as a trainer and in this business, is that we always did things face to face. I would encourage people to think about connecting with their manufacturers, or manufacturers to the jobbers, and jobbers to the customers at the shop level, that you start to embrace the virtual training as opportunities, or even not just training, communications. You'd be surprised how quickly people are picking up on this. It's just absolutely phenomenal how we're seeing the trend of people taking virtual communications like WebEx and GoToMeeting and Zoom and Teams and all those types of things. So I would really encourage that you do that, and the people that are watching this, Andrew, that people take this new technology and run with it.
Sure. I guess from a standpoint of, if you're a manufacturer's, sales professional, or somewhere at the distribution or wholesaling level, at this point, I would imagine you've had at least a few meetings, other, as you mentioned, on some of the tools. We're using Zoom right now. Uh,
Mhm.
but often that approach hasn't been taken down to the shop level, from what I'm hearing. And is that just a kind of a barrier that people are imposing that doesn't actually exist, or is that something that is actually a real difference in comfort level with this way of communicating?
Oh, no, definitely. I mean, a guy would drive 8 hours in a car to get to go. A manufacturer would go, including myself, for a lot of years. We drive 4, 6 hours, 8 hours to go work with somebody, go in the field and spend time with them. Sometimes you hit and miss, you get people or you don't. You book appointments ahead of time, being logical to go into work in an area with a jobber. Let's say if it's a manufacturer, let's embrace this new technology, and talk to the shops if they're not doing it. Say it's a click of the button. We can have you online just like that. I can see you. A rep could be in Toronto or in Vancouver and talk to a guy in Nanaimo, or whatever country across the country. Have dialogue, open communication. It's a comfort level though, and it's a push the button to say, listen, I'm going to give it a shot. And I just want to add one thing, because it really is important. I think if people do try this and they jump more into this communication with their shops or in their own internal, like jobbers, store to store, maybe they're not doing it. Maybe someone has 10 stores, 12 stores throughout a province or a couple provinces, and they're not communicating. Try it that way. One thing I will say, please come out of the gate with great etiquette. If you're going to be in a meeting and you're joining any meetings amongst your manufacturer associates, the people that you work with within your own organization, or if you're bringing your customers in, just look into the camera, talk to people, and make sure that we're really paying attention. There's nothing worse if the screen's off and you're texting, or you're, checking email, or you're doing something else. You wouldn't do that in a face-to-face setting. So I encourage you, when you're there, be there, listen, talk, get engaged, get involved. And there's a lot that can be learned, and very efficient time well spent cost savings when you do these meetings as well.
Yeah, sure. I think the general consensus from what I'm hearing from people in sales management roles is that this has become a very effective way to get groups of people together, whether they're internal or customer presentation based or training, as you mentioned. Certainly on training, it has seen a big uptick. Uh, in a way that is actually more accessible than those face-to-face meetings. We, those of us who enjoy being in a big room and networking, have to admit that, taking away that travel time and that need to be away from everything can actually really be a benefit to connecting on a more frequent basis, correct?
Oh, it's great what you said, and 100%. And I was talking to someone in the States, we're doing some online training with them and virtual training, and he was telling me, well, I don't have to go into 2 other states and bring all these stores in here. It's going to save me thousands of dollars and in just travel time. And back to your point about the leadership side of it, the people that I'm talking to that are having these meetings and talking to people and taking things to their customers, but let's talk internally, the coworkers and the senior management having these meetings is a great sign of great connection, of good leadership. That's a great way to see your people, talk to your people, tell them you care, having them involved. They're in another branch or store, 50 miles away and you don't see them. It's a great way to show great leadership. What's going on? Here's the programs. Here's what we're doing, rather than communicating it through the vehicles of email and so on. So there's lots of great points.
Yeah, no, it's excellent. Now, what we're, hearing is, really embrace this aspect of it. But are there things from, kind of sales basics that still remain true as far as customer retention and building customers? I mean, this whole pandemic has really tossed everything up in the air. And there are a number of organizations who are really identifying opportunities here too, correct?
There sure are, and the issue that you run into a lot of times is with the apprehension of salespeople's confidence going through on this. Oh, I don't want to overstep bounds. There's 100%. You have to have great protocol. You have to be respectful and polite and mindful of all of that. But you have to still sell. You have to get out and you have to work. The way to do it now maybe a little bit differently as well, and not that it's different, no, so to speak, but being aware of each individual's situation where they're at. Like, you have to be patient as to if they want to try new products, if they're open to conversation on all of this. You have to connect with people, and the best way to do that is to be prepared with good questions to ask. Where are they at? Would they be interested in speaking about these products? Are they open to new ideas? And what's happening when salespeople are well prepared, well organized, whether it's a product, a program, and if they care first about the person and really care about connecting and talking to the person individually about their business and the opportunities of the products that you're selling, is to making sure that you really communicate the fact that you're trying to help their business. And you know what's interesting? Some of their competition may not be delivering on it. They may not be able to get products. They may not be delivering opportunities for training or the value that your individual prospective organization offers. So prospect still, talk to people. Your existing customers, the second part of it, because I think, Andrew, what you asked was, going after new business, be prepared, be well organized, go after it, be professional, and actually connect with the people, and you will get new business possibly, because we know what's happening. I've talked to so many salespeople that are saying the customers are now telling them that they need help in certain areas and some people aren't delivering. So it gives you a great opportunity for new business. You never know unless you go see them, talk to them. Also the part you said about keeping the business, right? Account retention, business retention. It's the worst thing. When we lose business, sometimes it's too late. We can't repair it. So what I suggest you do is get together with your customers, not just in that 5-10 minute sales call that you're making, but actually spend some great time with them. Maybe you can go for a coffee. Maybe you can just sit in the office before work or after and talk about what their goals are, what their challenges are, where they see their business going, assess the products that they're using. And you will find out if there's any problems that they're having with your particular organization. And then you could work on repairing them, or working maybe phone skills. Maybe it's a customer service issue. But if we don't ask, and set specific time to discuss these things with them, sometimes it just might not happen.
Right.
And then they open the door to the competition and you could lose the business just over whatever it might be. So have those business assessment meetings. It helps mitigate the loss of your valued customers that you've earned.
Sure. And it occurs to me as we're talking that, the ability to have virtual meetings like this, face to face, where you can, pick up a product and show them a product or show them some items, as well as, sharing screens for presentations, can happen outside of normal business hours, outside of when a business owner might normally be willing to see you. Uh, but it could be in the evenings. They don't want you or any visitors outside coming into their operations because they're concerned about health and safety issues. But they may be open to outside hour meetings. Obviously, one wants to be respectful of everybody's time, including your own and your family. But it certainly makes it possible to have a 10-minute meeting, and then at the end of the 10 minutes, the meeting is over and everybody's at home or at their business, and you can go on about your day instead of then being a 2-hour drive away from where you need to be with your family. So there's a lot of opportunities for additional interaction if you look at it a certain way.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, absolutely. And it's not really the future, it's the now, right? Well, you've nailed it. I mean, really, is that you can connect with your manufacturers and talk to them and put programs together. We've known that, even you were saying earlier, shoulder to shoulder, reps would go up into an area and work it. I would encourage you as a manufacturer, or as well as the jobbers that are watching, is you be the one that's proactive to call and say, listen, let's practice some of these meetings. Let's talk about them, because the one thing that's the biggest challenging part for everyone is time. How do we get to everyone? How do we see everyone? How do we get to all the shops? How do we create the opportunities? Create a list of who you want to call, and your vendors, your suppliers, or your customers, shop customers. Call the ones that you could have these types of meetings with, and just start with a few, and you'll be amazed how easy it'll become, and the results that you will get through that open communication, rather than waiting, till we can see each other face to face potentially, or take the actionable items that we want and goals, and we can do it virtually for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I guess, the bottom line for everybody out there, really embrace this virtual world. It is, to some degree or another, to be with us permanently. It's a great tool. It's not an absolute replacement for face-to-face meetings, that's for sure, but it's certainly a lot better than a phone call for a lot of folks. And as you say, it is the now. So be with the now. Be professional about it. Don't forget your sales basics, but use the new tools to the fullest extent as best as you can, and bring your customers along with you. I think that sounds like they'll really appreciate it.
I think if Jimmy Fallon can do it, everybody can do it, can't they? Right? Jimmy Kimmel.
We're gonna wrap it up now, but thank you, everybody. The first session in our Great Canadian Aftermarket Trade Show virtual event. Please spend some time, visit the exhibits accessible through the logos on the page, and there's contact information for Excel Sales Consulting below this video if you want to find out more about what Norm Rose and his crew do. Excellent. Thank you again, Norm. Take care.
Can't thank you enough. Great to see you, Andrew, and talk to you soon.